Welcome to the Explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're tracing the ultimate journey. We're following a single breath of air from the outside world straight down into the microscopic depths of your body. We're going to break down the anatomy of the respiratory tract, those invisible forces of physics, and the mind-blowing physiology that keeps you alive, literally without you even thinking about it.
12 to 20. That's it. That's the number of breaths a normal adult takes every single minute. It just happens, right? A relentless, rhythmic loop running in the background, keeping our cells fueled up.
But you gotta wonder what actually happens the moment you take a deep breath. I mean, we do it thousands of times a day, but the mechanics behind it are absolutely fascinating. So, let's take a deep breath together right now and follow that exact volume of air on its epic journey inward.
Section 1. The pathway of air, from nostril to lung.
Okay, so our breath takes a highly specific plunge. First stop, the nasal cavities. Here, you've got these coarse hairs called vibriose acting like tiny bouncers, filtering out dust while mucus warms and moistens the air. From there, the air dives down the pharynx, shoots through the larynx, and travels down the trachea before fanning out into the bronchial tree.
Now, right at the top of the larynx sits the epiglottis. This crucial little flap of cartilage is basically your ultimate bodyguard. Whenever you swallow, it completely closes over the opening so you don't accidentally inhale your lunch. I mean, if it fails, well, that's exactly when you start choking.
Moving further down, the trachea actually splits at a cartilage plate called the carina. This split creates a sprawling bronchial tree leading deep into the lungs, which, by the way, brilliant design. They flank the heart right there in the chest cavity, and the whole thing ends in these microscopic alveolar sacs.
Section 2. Mechanics of ventilation, the invisible forces of breathing.
Now, think about this for a second. How does the air actually know to flow inward? It's not magic, it's pure physics. It all relies entirely on the concepts of bulk flow and atmospheric pressure.
It all comes down to what we call the transrespiratory pressure gradient. Now, that sounds complex, but it's really just the difference between the atmospheric pressure at your mouth and the pressure deep down inside your alveoli. See, air follows a very strict rule of physics. It always moves by bulk flow from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure.
Your body obviously can't change the atmospheric pressure outside, right? But it sure can manipulate the pressure inside. As your chest expands and your thoracic volume goes up, the pressure inside drops. It literally creates a partial vacuum that just sucks the air right in.
And that brings us to the two phases of ventilation. Inspiration, that's an active process. Nervous impulses travel along your phrenic nerves, commanding your diaphragm to contract and move downward, expanding the thorax. But expiration, well, during quiet breathing, that is completely passive. You just relax, let it go, the elastic tissues recoil, the volume drops, the pressure goes up, and the air just gets pushed right back out.
For all of this to actually work, your lungs and thoracic wall have to move together perfectly. I absolutely love this visceral metaphor from the source material. Much the way two glass slides with water in between them are difficult to pull apart. That is exactly what intrapleural fluid does. It's this thin layer of lubricating fluid sitting between the pleural membranes, and it holds the lungs tightly against the expanding thoracic wall via negative pressure. It's literally what keeps them from just collapsing.
Speaking of collapse, down in those tiny, moist alveoli, the water surface tension is so high that the sacs would naturally just crush inward. To stop this from happening, certain specialized cells, type 2 pneumocytes, secrete pulmonary surfactant. Think of it like a biological detergent. It disrupts the hydrogen bonds of the water lining the alveoli, bringing that surface tension down and making it actually possible for us to inflate our lungs.
Section 3. The gas exchange, where air meets blood.
All right. So right at the microscopic interface of the alveoli and the pulmonary capillaries, this incredibly rapid trade goes down. Oxygen, which is in a much higher concentration in the incoming air, diffuses straight into the blood. At the exact same time, carbon dioxide, which, fun fact, has been traveling through the plasma mostly as bicarbonate ions, converts back to gas just in time for you to exhale it. It's also super important to distinguish between the two types of respiration happening inside you right now. What we just looked at in the alveoli, that's external respiration, the exchange between the lungs and the blood. But once that freshly oxygenated blood pumps through your body, internal respiration takes over. That's the exchange of those life-giving gases between your blood and your actual tissue cells out in the body. Section 4. Lung capacities. Measuring our breaths.
500 milliliters. That's your resting tidal volume. Basically, when you're just sitting there calmly watching this explainer, you're only moving about half a liter of air in and out, which is kind of crazy when you realize how incredibly small that is compared to the massive total capacity your lungs actually hold.
So while resting, you're just sipping on that small tidal volume. But take a massive gasp in, and you tap into your inspiratory reserve, adding almost 3,000 milliliters. Then, if you force it all out, that's your expiratory reserve. But here's the clever part. About 1,000 milliliters of residual volume always stays behind no matter what. It makes sure your lungs never fully empty. Oh, and some air also hangs out in the upper passages, which we call dead air space, since it doesn't get used for gas exchange.
Now, when you sum up your normal breath plus everything you can maximally inhale and exhale, you get your total vital capacity. And it's called vital for a reason. Simply put, the more air you can move, the better off you are.
Section 5. Controlling the rhythm. The autonomic conductor.
So who is running this whole show? The respiratory center, right there in your brainstem, acts as an autonomic autopilot. It sends these ramp-like electrical signals down to your diaphragm. And that's key. Instead of a sudden jolt that would make you aggressively gasp, this ramp ensures a smooth, steady, and comfortable intake of breath over about 2 seconds.
But wait, what actually stops you from accidentally breathing in too much and popping your lungs like balloons? Well, back in 1868, scientists discovered this critical failsafe, the Herring-Breuer reflex. You have these slowly adapting stretch receptors in your airways that sense when the lungs are expanding too much. They immediately fire signals straight up the vagus nerve to inhibit inspiration, shutting off the intake valve and triggering expiration.
Your brain literally breathes for you 20,000 times a day on absolute autopilot. But what happens when you decide to take control? Through our cerebral cortex, we can consciously override this autopilot. We can hold our breath, clear a cough, or intricately regulate the air flowing across our vocal cords just to sing or speak. It's an absolute marvel of biology. Your body is ready to autonomously orchestrate this insanely complex symphony 20,000 times today alone. So, what are you going to do with your next breath?